Get ready for a journey of discovery that might just change the way you see the world. In today's episode of Reseña Histórica, we have the honor of welcoming none other than Rudolf Steiner, the visionary creator of anthroposophy, founder of Waldorf schools, and pioneer in many other fields of knowledge. His revolutionary ideas about freedom, spirituality, education, and even agriculture are ahead of our time and more relevant than ever. In this extraordinary encounter, Steiner reveals to us how self-knowledge is the key to true personal and social transformation. He shares his reflections on the spiritual essence of the universe and challenges us to think beyond the limitations imposed by modern society. Have you ever wondered what a world would look like, where every human being is truly free and aware? A world where education develops complete individuals and nature is respected in its entirety? If you want to discover how intuition, the soul of plants, and spirituality connect with our daily lives, and how these ideas can radically change our future, you can't miss this interview. Rudolf Steiner takes us on a journey to explore deep concepts in an accessible and inspiring way, making it clear that his ideas are not just theories, but a call to action for all of us. Stay with us until the end, and allow yourself to question the invisible chains that bind us, while opening the doors to a new way of thinking and living. This conversation is an invitation for those who seek not only to understand, but also to transform themselves and the world around them. Don't miss it. Rudolf Steiner, your ideas are very different from those of most people. You see the human being not only as a material entity, but also as a spiritual one, and you advocate for the importance of freedom of thought, as well as an education that values the emotional development of children. What sparked your interest in such profound themes, often contrary to the predominant thinking of your time?
From an early age, I felt deeply dissatisfied with the answers that the materialistic view of the world provided. It always seemed to me that the human being was much more than just a collection of physical and chemical processes. What sparked my interest in these themes was a search to understand the totality of existence, something that conventional science, with all its rigor and success, could not fully explain. I wanted to explore the fundamental questions of life, such as consciousness, freedom, and our higher purpose as human beings. My personal experiences and my study of spiritual and philosophical traditions showed me that to truly understand the human being, we must look beyond what is visible to the eye. I realized that the essence of the human being is connected to something deeper, a spiritual dimension that influences our thoughts, feelings, and actions.
Did your family influence you in any way to become so questioning about human existence?
My family certainly played an important role in shaping my character, but not in the sense of directly guiding me towards spiritual or philosophical questions. I grew up in a relatively simple and pragmatic environment where life was focused on work and daily needs. My father, who worked as a telegraphist and later as a station master, valued logical and scientific thinking greatly. He always encouraged me to be rational and critical, to not accept anything without a solid foundation. However, it was precisely this rationalist influence that sparked in me a desire to go beyond, to explore the questions that pure logic could not answer. My search for the deeper meaning of human existence emerged as a reaction to the materialistic environment in which I was immersed. From an early age, I felt deeply dissatisfied with the answers that the materialistic view of the world provided. It always seemed to me that the human being was much more than just a collection of physical and chemical processes. So, although my family gave me a solid foundation in critical thinking, it was my own thirst for knowledge and my inner drive that led me to question and explore the mysteries of human existence so deeply.
What path of study did you follow to arrive at anthroposophy?
My path of study toward anthroposophy was a long and multifaceted journey that began with a deep interest in philosophy, natural sciences, and mathematics. Initially, I was greatly influenced by scientific and rational thought, and I dedicated myself to studying the works of philosophers like Immanuel Kant and Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. It was through Goethe that I found an important bridge to my spiritual view of reality. He had a scientific approach that also recognized the existence of a qualitative and living dimension in nature. My academic background was in natural sciences and engineering, studying in Vienna and later in Weimar, where I had the opportunity to edit Goethe's scientific works. During this period, I developed a deep admiration for his ability to see nature as an organic whole, where spirit and matter are interconnected. This opened the door for me to begin exploring a new form of knowledge, which I would later call spiritual science. At the same time, I delved into the study of philosophy, mysticism, and esoteric traditions, seeking a broader understanding of the universal laws that govern life and human consciousness. I was determined to find a way to unite the precision of science with the depth of spirituality, which led me to explore the thinking of various wisdom schools, like Theosophy. However, as my studies progressed, I realized that I needed to develop my own system, one that integrated spiritual knowledge in a way that was accessible and practical for the people of my time. It was then, after years of reflection, research, and practice, that anthroposophy began to take shape. Anthroposophy emerged as a modern spiritual science, based on rigorous methods of observation but applied to a spiritual reality. This path allowed me to create a philosophy that not only explains physical reality, but also the invisible dimensions that influence our lives, our thoughts, and our evolution as human beings.
Can you explain to a layperson like me what anthroposophy is?
Anthroposophy is a way of understanding the human being and the world that combines science, philosophy, and spirituality. The word anthroposophy comes from Greek and means wisdom of the human being. The central idea is that we as humans are more than just a physical body. We also have an emotional part, our soul, and a spiritual part. Anthroposophy seeks to study and understand how these three aspects relate to each other, and how we can develop each of them to live in a more full and conscious way. Unlike traditional science, which studies only what we can see and touch, anthroposophy also explores the invisible, such as our thoughts, feelings, and the influence of spiritual forces. It teaches us that it is possible to observe these spiritual aspects in a practical and concrete way, just as we do with physical phenomena. Additionally, anthroposophy is applied in various areas of life, such as education, Waldorf schools, agriculture, biodynamic farming, medicine, art, and even architecture. In all these areas, it seeks to promote balanced and sustainable development, respecting both the human being and nature. Above all, it is a way of looking at the world and ourselves with a broader and deeper vision, always seeking the connection between the material and the spiritual.
Is anthroposophy connected to any religion?
Anthroposophy is not a religion, and that distinction is very important. It is a spiritual science that seeks to understand human nature and the universe from a perspective that includes both the material and the spiritual. While religions generally have specific dogmas, rituals, and beliefs, anthroposophy is more a form of knowledge that encourages each individual to explore and develop their own spiritual understanding through personal experience and reflection. This means that anthroposophy can be studied and practiced by people of any religious belief, or even by those who do not follow any specific religion. I myself have respected and studied many spiritual and religious traditions deeply. But the goal of anthroposophy is to help people find their own path to truth and self-knowledge without imposing a fixed set of beliefs. Therefore, although it shares an interest in the spiritual like many religions, anthroposophy is open, free of dogma, and aims to provide a path of individual development where discovery and personal experience are the primary guides.
Are you enjoying the interview? Don't forget to leave a like. This will strengthen the channel, helping us bring more content like this. In your book, The Philosophy of Freedom, you talk about the importance of human freedom. How do you define freedom? And how does it manifest in our lives without becoming a freedom that harms others?
Freedom, as I define it in The Philosophy of Freedom, is the ability to act from our own conscious thoughts in alignment with our deepest and truest values, rather than being driven merely by impulses, instincts, or external influences. True freedom arises when our actions are guided by our inner self, by what we call moral intuition. that inner voice that recognizes what is right and meaningful for us. However, for this freedom to be genuine, it must be accompanied by responsibility. The freedom I advocate is not a license to do anything without considering the consequences for others. It requires a high level of self-knowledge and self-control, where we understand that our actions have an impact on the world around us. Acting freely also means acting ethically, respecting the dignity and space of others. Therefore, the freedom I propose cannot be separated from love and respect for others. It manifests in our lives when we are able to express our true ideals and thoughts, always taking into account the collective well-being. True freedom is never an act of selfishness. On the contrary, it seeks harmony between the individual and the community. Acting according to this freedom means that our decisions are made with awareness and empathy, avoiding harm to others and contributing to the overall human development.
Rudolf Steiner, correct me if I'm wrong. In our society full of beliefs and dogmas, wouldn't this freedom be false? Since we are manipulated all the time by the media, religion, and even by our parents?
You are absolutely right to raise this point, and it is precisely this great difficulty that we face when talking about true freedom. We live in a society where we are constantly influenced by external forces, whether by the media, education, religious traditions, or even by the values and expectations that our own parents impose on us. These influences often shape our thoughts, desires, and decisions without us being fully aware of them. However, this is exactly where true freedom begins, in the act of becoming aware of these influences and gradually freeing ourselves from them. The freedom I propose is not something that is automatically given to us or that we can achieve overnight. It is a continuous process of self-knowledge and inner development, where we learn to distinguish the thoughts and impulses that truly come from our essence from those that are imposed from outside. To achieve this authentic freedom, we need to cultivate a critical and reflective attitude toward the information we receive and the beliefs that surround us. We must question, investigate, and, most importantly, develop the ability to think for ourselves. This is the path of the philosophy of freedom, learning to make decisions based on a clear and deep understanding of who we are and what we believe in, rather than blindly following what we have been told or shown. Therefore, although it is true that we are manipulated and influenced in many ways, this does not mean that freedom is impossible. It simply means that it requires effort and dedication. It is a journey inward where we find our true voice, our true self, a self that is not dictated by dogmas or outside opinions, but acts from a conscious and free understanding.
How can we free ourselves from so many chains and be truly free?
Freeing ourselves from these chains and achieving true freedom is undoubtedly one of the greatest tasks we can face as human beings. The path to this freedom begins with the development of self-knowledge and awareness. We need to become careful observers of our own thoughts, feelings, and actions, constantly questioning the influences that shape us. This involves asking ourselves, why do I think this way? Is this idea truly mine, or was it implanted by an external voice, be it society, family, the media, or religion? An essential step is to develop the ability to think independently and clearly. This means not accepting anything blindly, but seeking to understand the reasons behind things. The practice of meditation and daily reflection is a powerful ally in this process because it allows us to silence external voices and connect with our deepest self, where our moral intuition and true identity reside. Furthermore, it is important to cultivate the courage to act according to our own principles and values, even when it goes against social expectations or external pressures. Real freedom is not just a state of mind, but an active practice that involves conscious and often difficult choices. It is the courage to be authentic, to live according to what you know to be true, even when it is not popular or easy. And finally, the pursuit of freedom is closely linked to the development of empathy and compassion. When we genuinely connect with others, we realize that our freedom is intertwined with the freedom of those around us. We cannot be truly free if our actions limit or harm the freedom of others. Therefore, the process of freeing ourselves from our chains is not only individual but also a quest to create a society where every human being can express their true potential. True freedom, then, is an inner journey that never ends. It is a continuous effort to expand our consciousness, to understand ourselves, and to act from what is most authentic and elevated within us.
Learning this as an adult is much more challenging. Is that why you advocate for a different kind of education for children?
Exactly. That is precisely why I strongly believe in the importance of a differentiated education from early childhood. When we are adults, we have already accumulated many layers of conditioning, beliefs, and thought patterns that are difficult to change. These external influences take deep root in our minds, and unlearning them requires a great deal of effort and deep reflection. That's why starting this inner development work from a young age makes a huge difference. In the educational approach I developed, known as Waldorf education, the focus is not only on transmitting academic knowledge, but on nurturing the whole human being, their cognitive, emotional, and spiritual capacities. The goal is to create an environment where the child can develop in a balanced way, cultivating imagination, creativity, and above all, freedom of thought. We want children to grow up with the ability to think for themselves, to question the world around them, and to make decisions based on their own values and intuitions. We believe that an education that values art, movement, connection with nature, and practical learning helps shape individuals who are more self-aware and conscious of their impact on the world. These children learn from an early age to know themselves, to understand their emotions, and to respect those of others. They grow up with a clear notion that they are more than just what society expects of them. They are creative beings capable of transforming the world around them. So yes, the earlier we can begin this process of self-knowledge and development of true freedom, the more natural and powerful these qualities will become in adult life. An education that respects the individual rhythm of the child and promotes harmonious development is the key to forming truly free human beings, capable of acting consciously and compassionately, both towards themselves and others.
An education like this would break the matrix. Structures of domination would fall. Do you think we could ever reach this evolutionary level?
I deeply believe that this possibility exists, although I know it is neither an easy nor a quick path. An education that promotes freedom of thought, self-knowledge, and the integral development of the human being, as I propose in Waldorf education, has the potential to radically transform society. When we educate individuals to think for themselves, to be guided by ethics, and to understand their connection to the whole, we are planting the seeds for a new way of living in community. The structures of domination and control that we see in society persist because people are often conditioned to accept what is imposed on them without question. But when a person awakens to their own inner strength, to their ability to discern and decide based on their own values, these structures begin to lose their power. A society made up of truly free and conscious individuals is naturally a more just society, where relationships are based on cooperation, respect, and mutual responsibility, not on manipulation or submission. It is true that the forces seeking to maintain these structures of control are powerful, and they resist any movement that threatens their stability. However, human evolution is a continuous process, and I believe we are gradually moving toward a greater collective awakening. With each generation that grows up with an education that promotes freedom of spirit, we get closer to a society that values human dignity, truth, and the common good. So yes, I would say that we can reach this evolutionary level, but it depends on each of us, on our choices, on our willingness to educate new generations differently, and on our commitment to inner transformation. As more and more individuals become agents of change, capable of inspiring and guiding others by example, then the structures of domination will inevitably begin to crumble. The true revolution, in the end, is a revolution of consciousness.
Rudolf Steiner, can you tell us a little about biodynamic agriculture?
Of course, biodynamic agriculture is an approach that I developed as a practical extension of the principles of anthroposophy applied to cultivating the land. It is much more than just a farming technique. It is a way of seeing the farm as a living organism, where all elements, soil, plants, animals, and even human beings, are interconnected and mutually influence one another. The goal is to work in harmony with natural and cosmic processes, creating a healthy and sustainable ecosystem. In biodynamic agriculture, we pay close attention to the cycles of nature, including the phases of the moon and the positions of the planets, as we believe these forces influence plant growth and soil vitality. We use natural preparations made from herbs, minerals, and manure, which are applied to the soil and plants to stimulate biological processes and enhance the fertility and health of the crops. These preparations are not just fertilizers, they act as catalysts that strengthen the Earth's vital forces. Another important aspect of biodynamic agriculture is the idea that the farm should be a self-sustaining system. This means that we aim to recycle all nutrients within the farm itself, maintaining a balance between what is taken from the soil and what is returned to it. The presence of animals, for example, is not only for the production of milk or meat, but also to provide manure, which is vital for soil fertility. What makes biodynamic agriculture unique is this holistic vision, where everything is considered part of an interconnected whole. By caring for the land in this way, we are not only producing high-quality food, we are also regenerating the soil, protecting biodiversity, and creating a more balanced and healthier environment for future generations. I believe that this form of agriculture is a powerful response to many of the challenges we face today regarding sustainability and the planet's health.
Indigenous peoples already knew about biodynamic agriculture, but today the planet is being destroyed by so many chemicals. Besides, there's the damage to people's health from producing food products that aren't actually real food.
You are absolutely right. Many indigenous peoples throughout history had a deep connection with the land and understood the importance of working in harmony with natural cycles. They intuitively knew that the earth is a living being that needs to be respected and nurtured, and their agricultural practices reflected this knowledge. They planted and harvested in sync with the phases of the moon, respected the seasons, and had a spiritual understanding of nature very similar to the principles we propose in biodynamic agriculture. Unfortunately, with the arrival of modern industrial agriculture and the intensive use of chemicals, we have lost much of this ancestral wisdom. Today, food production is driven by a purely economic and mechanistic logic, where the goal is to maximize profits and yields at any cost. The rampant use of pesticides, herbicides, and synthetic fertilizers degrades the soil, pollutes water bodies, and harms biodiversity. Moreover, these chemicals enter our food system, directly affecting people's health. The result is that we are consuming foods that are often devoid of life, lacking essential nutrients, and loaded with toxic substances. These foods, although they may look appealing, do not properly nourish the body and often contribute to the development of chronic diseases and health disorders. Biodynamic agriculture and other agroecological practices offer a way back to what indigenous peoples always knew, that the true health of the soil, plants, and consequently human beings depends on working in balance with nature. If we want to reverse the course of destruction we are seeing today, we need to reclaim this vision of respect and collaboration with natural rhythms, producing food that is not just food, but true sources of life and energy for our bodies and souls.
I heard a scholar say that plants have a soul, that when we drink a tea that helps with a particular physical problem, like a calming tea, what calms us is the soul of the plant, which carries that energy.
That is a very interesting observation and is in line with how I see nature and plants. In my view, everything in the universe possesses a spiritual dimension, and plants are no exception. Although they do not have an individual soul like human beings, they do possess something we call a group soul, or spiritual force, that is common to each species. This group soul of the plants is connected to the cosmic and spiritual forces that influence their growth, properties, and healing capabilities. When we talk about the effect of a calming tea, for example, we are not dealing solely with its chemical properties, but also with the vital energy and spiritual essence of the plant. This energy is an expression of the inner quality that the plant carries within itself and that it generously offers to us. By consuming this tea, we are connecting with the plant's spiritual force, which interacts with our body, soul, and spirit, promoting balance and harmony. That is why, Since ancient times, humanity has always regarded plants as allies in healing and well-being. They are not just physical organisms, but beings that carry a natural wisdom, a force that works to restore balance and health within us. When we understand this, we begin to value and respect the plant kingdom even more, realizing that what heals us is not just a biochemical reaction, but a deep interaction with the living and spiritual forces that inhabit the plants. This connection with the soul of plants is something that indigenous peoples and traditional cultures have always known. They treated plants with reverence, recognizing their wisdom and healing power as gifts from nature. And this understanding is also central to biodynamic agriculture, where we cultivate and harvest plants with the utmost respect for their spiritual being, knowing that we are dealing with much more than just physical matter.
Rudolf Steiner, do you believe that all this transformation begins with self-knowledge?
Yes, absolutely. I deeply believe that all genuine transformation, whether personal or social, begins with self-knowledge. When we truly know ourselves, when we become aware of our thoughts, emotions, motivations, and the spiritual forces that act within us, we begin to awaken to a new way of seeing the world and ourselves. Self-knowledge gives us the ability to distinguish what is essential from what is superficial, allowing us to make decisions that are authentic and aligned with our deepest values. Without self-knowledge, we are easily influenced by external forces, like the opinions of others, societal beliefs, or even our own fears and insecurities. We live in a kind of hypnotic state, automatically reacting to what surrounds us without really questioning why we do what we do. But when we begin to know ourselves deeply, we gain clarity and discernment to transform these external influences into conscious choices. Self-knowledge is the key to inner freedom. It allows us to see beyond the illusions and conditioning imposed upon us, connecting us with our true essence, that spiritual core that is unique to each of us. And it is from this place of authenticity that we can begin to act in a transformative way in the world. This transformation is not only individual, it is contagious. When one person awakens to self-knowledge, they naturally inspire and influence those around them, creating a movement of change that can spread throughout society. A community of conscious and free individuals is capable of questioning power structures, creating new forms of relationships, and promoting a culture based on higher values such as respect, compassion, and collaboration. Therefore, I believe that self-knowledge is the starting point for any lasting transformation. It gives us the tools to not only transform ourselves, but also to act as agents of change in a world that so desperately needs new paths and new ways of being. It is an inner journey that leads to the true revolution, a revolution of consciousness that can indeed transform society and create a more human and spiritually connected future.
What is the role of intuition in your philosophical approach?
Intuition plays a fundamental role in my philosophical and spiritual approach. I see it as a form of direct and profound knowledge that goes beyond logical thinking and sensory perceptions. While reasoning helps us analyze and understand things in a rational way, intuition connects us to a higher dimension of reality, allowing us to access truths that cannot be perceived merely by the intellectual mind. In my perspective, intuition is an expression of our connection with the spirit, a capability that we all have, but that needs to be developed and cultivated. It allows us to reach out to our deepest self, to the essence of our being, and to the universal wisdom that permeates all things. It is through intuition that we can gain insights about ourselves, about the world, and about the deepest mysteries of existence. When we talk about freedom, which is a central concept in my work, The Philosophy of Freedom, intuition is crucial. True freedom is not simply doing whatever we want, but acting from impulses that arise from our highest self, from our spiritual being. These impulses are accessed through intuition, guiding us to make decisions that are aligned with our most authentic values and with an ethical understanding of life. Intuition is also essential for understanding the spiritual laws that govern nature and human evolution. When we connect intuitively, we can perceive the subtle forces operating behind physical phenomena and understand how these forces shape our reality and development. It is through intuition that we transcend the world of appearances, and enter the realm of living ideas, where we find inspiration for art, spiritual science, and all creative expressions of the human being. Therefore, intuition, in my approach, is much more than a simple feeling or guess. It is a higher cognitive faculty, a form of perception that puts us in direct contact with spiritual truth, and it is through the cultivation of this intuitive ability that we can truly become free, conscious human beings, creators of our own destiny.
So intuition is the truth within us that we can only access through self-knowledge?
Yes, exactly. Intuition is like a deep truth that resides within each of us, which we can only fully access through self-knowledge. I believe that we all carry within us a latent wisdom, a connection with the spiritual essence of the universe and with what is eternal and true. However, for this wisdom to be revealed, we need to commit to the journey of self-knowledge, because it is through this process that we develop the inner clarity and sensitivity to perceive these subtler truths. Self-knowledge helps us differentiate the thoughts that come from external influences, like societal opinions, beliefs, and conditioning, from those that truly arise from our deepest self. As we come to know ourselves better, we begin to identify the layers of illusions and fears that obscure our true essence, and let our inner voice emerge, which is the source of intuition. When I say that intuition is a form of truth, I mean that it directly connects us to the spiritual laws and principles that govern existence. Unlike logical thinking, which is linear and often limited to appearances, intuition allows us to have a direct and immediate understanding of reality, seeing things as they truly are, beyond the masks that the physical world presents to us. However, for this intuition to manifest clearly and truly, an inner purification process is necessary. We need to cultivate the discipline of looking inward, questioning our impulses, and refining our thoughts and feelings. Only then can we create space for this inner truth to reveal itself, undistorted by our projections or biases. So yes, intuition is indeed the expression of this truth that resides within us, but it can only be accessed when we commit to self-knowledge and the development of an awakened consciousness. It is through this process that we begin to live according to our true self, making decisions that are not just rational but also aligned with the higher purpose of our existence.
Rudolf Steiner, before we finish, I'd like to ask you two more questions. The first is, what is this spiritual essence of the universe that you talk about so much? Is it God?
That is a profound and fundamental question, and I am glad you asked it. When I speak of the spiritual essence of the universe, I am referring to a force or reality that is the foundation of everything that exists. A force that permeates and sustains life, that is present in all things, and that gives rise to creation. This spiritual essence is the principle that animates both matter and consciousness. It is what gives meaning and direction to the entire evolution of the cosmos and the human soul. Now, whether we call this essence God depends greatly on how each person understands and defines that word. In spiritual traditions, God is often seen as a personal entity, a supreme being with specific attributes. However, in anthroposophy, this spiritual essence is not limited to a single form or figure. It is much more encompassing and infinite, a source of wisdom and love that manifests in many ways, at different levels and dimensions. I would say that yes, this spiritual essence can be called God, but we must understand that we are speaking of a reality much richer and more complex than a simple isolated entity. It is a living, dynamic presence that expresses itself in everything we see and experience, from the forces of nature to the most subtle movements of the human soul. In fact, every human being carries within them a spark of this divine essence, and our spiritual development path is precisely the process of awakening that inner connection with what is eternal and true. Therefore, in my view, the spiritual essence of the universe is the foundation of all religions and spiritual traditions, although it is interpreted in different ways within each of them. It is the basis of creation, the spirit that permeates all things, and that we can experience directly through self-knowledge and intuition. Whether we call it God, universal spirit, or cosmic wisdom, the truth is that we are referring to the same spiritual reality that gives life and meaning to everything that exists.
And the last question is, who are we?
That is perhaps the most profound question we can ask. And the answer to it is a journey that lasts our entire existence. Who are we? We are much more than our physical bodies, our thoughts, our emotions, and the circumstances of our lives. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, bearers of a divine spark that connects us to the deepest essence of the universe. Every human being is a unique combination of body, soul, and spirit. The body is the physical vehicle that allows us to act and interact in the material world. The soul is where our feelings, desires, and thoughts manifest, serving as the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. And the spirit is the eternal and immortal core that carries within it the potential for infinite evolution. This spirit is what connects us to the wisdom and spiritual essence of the cosmos. It is our true self, which transcends the limitations of time and space. We are, in essence, seekers of meaning and truth. We are here to evolve, to awaken our inner potential, and to contribute to the evolution of the world around us. I believe that our mission as human beings is to develop our capacities for love, compassion, knowledge, and creativity so that we can become co-creators with the universe, consciously participating in the great flow of life. Our existence is a journey of self-discovery and transformation. As we grow in self-knowledge and expand our consciousness, we begin to remember who we really are, spiritual beings, in constant evolution, destined to transcend the limitations of matter and to manifest the spirit in everyday life. When we awaken to this reality, we understand that we are part of something much greater, an individual expression of the universal whole. So who are we? We are eternal beings, carriers of a spiritual mission, travelers on a path of growth and self-discovery, destined to transform ourselves and through that to transform the world. This is our true nature, the essence that lies beneath the layers of our human experiences and that always calls us to awaken to our own divinity.
Rudolf Steiner, I am very pleased with our interview. Your philosophy gives us hope. Could it be that you came from another world? Your ideas are ahead of even our time, let alone in your own era.
I am very grateful for your words and for the deep interest in my philosophy. It is a great satisfaction for me to know that my ideas can bring hope and inspiration to those who seek to understand more about themselves and the world around them. Did I come from another world? That is an intriguing question. Perhaps, in a way, we all did. I believe that every human being carries within themselves a connection to spiritual realities beyond this material life, a link to the cosmos and the spiritual forces that shape our existence. Perhaps my ideas seem otherworldly because they seek precisely to connect the visible world with the invisible, to bring to light that which is beyond the immediate reach of our senses. I have always felt that my mission was to bring a new understanding, a way of seeing the human being and the universe that could integrate science, spirituality, and art into a single vision. I know that many of these ideas were challenging in my time and continue to be so in ours. But I believe that the true essence of knowledge is to always be a step ahead, illuminating paths that are yet to be traveled. If my ideas are seen as ahead of their time, it is because they are rooted in eternal truths that are not limited by eras or boundaries. I believe that each one of us has the ability to connect with these truths and find within ourselves the answers to the deepest questions of existence. My hope is that, through self-knowledge and spiritual awakening, we can build a future where all human beings can live freely, consciously, and in harmony with the cosmos. And who knows, perhaps we are all, in some way, travelers from other worlds, seeking to understand and manifest this universal wisdom in our lives here on Earth. That is the beauty of the human journey. We are all pioneers, discovering new horizons both within and outside of ourselves.
Thank you so much for your availability to be with us on Resenha Historica. Your philosophy is revolutionary. Could you leave a brief message for our audience?
I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to be here on Resenha Historica. It was a joy to be able to share a bit of my vision and philosophy with all of you. Never stop seeking the truth that lies within you. Self-knowledge is the key to a truly free and meaningful life. In a world full of external influences and distractions, remembering that we are more than just material beings is essential. We are spiritual beings in constant evolution, and each of us has a unique role to play in the great fabric of life. Cultivate the ability to think independently, be critical and questioning, but also open your hearts to intuition and the spiritual forces that guide our existence. The transformation of the world begins with the transformation of each one of us. By developing our inner potential and living according to our highest values, we can indeed create a more harmonious and conscious future. Always remember that true knowledge is what connects us more deeply to ourselves and to others, and that true freedom comes when we act with love, wisdom, and responsibility, aware of our place in the whole. Thank you all for listening and for being part of this journey of discovery and growth. May each of you find your path to the light and become a positive force for change in the world.
I hope you enjoyed the interview. Please leave a like and follow Resena Historica for more content like this.